All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us back for another Modern Agent Blueprint. Nikki and I are super excited to have Kim on today, and Kim is local to our area here. We connected through some of our EXP events and we share an admin person in our team, I guess you could say. We both hired the same amazing dynamic team, and I have been seeing Kim all over. I feel like all of a sudden you're just popping up all over the place. You've been doing your Ditch the Heels events for the last 3 years. And I'm just super excited because I know with Nikki and I hosting our Level Up events, one of the hardest things, and even like client events and everything else, one of the hardest things is to get people to show up to these events. I know Nikki and I are always stressed when we're doing our Level Up events. Like, okay, we've only sold 30 tickets. We've only sold 50, and it's trying to get up. We always reach our goal, but it's stressful. And then, you always have to account for the people who don't show up. So I'm really excited to see what you have to say today about how to get people to show up to these events and how you do it. So I'm going to turn it over to you and we'll let you take the stage.
Well, thank you. The funny thing is yes, what connected us is because we've actually been on stage at 2 events, right?
That's true.
So events is how we connected. Ding, ding, ding.
This is so true.
So that's another great testament on why events can be important. So yeah, I've been in real estate for, 28 years. So I've been doing it for a long time. I really wasn't doing events until the last 3 years. So just a little bit about our events. So because I host a number of different things. So I have my Knowledge is Power event that come this November will be 3 years. It's a monthly event. I'm usually able to get between 50 and 60 people to show up consistently, even 3 years later, which is amazing. Sometimes I'm like, do I keep doing them or not? But when I have that many people show up and the feedback that I get feeds me, and I'm like, okay, we got to keep doing it. I've hosted the last 2 regional rallies. I've been a host there, so we've sold out those events. And then my Ditch the Hills events, I've been able to sell those out as well. So I think that just to give a little context on the events that I do. Now, I'm not saying that everybody listening is wanting to do those exact kind of events, but just understanding, because I've learned through the years what worked, what didn't work, how you can keep consistent. And just that trying to, because you put so much effort into it, right? Like you said, you put all this effort, your heart and soul, and then do people show up or not? In real estate, a lot of times they like to wait to the last minute to register. Like you say, you reach those goals, but starting out along the way, you're nervous if you're going to. And then also it's just a matter of if you do it and you base your costs on certain things and people don't show up, what does that look like? So, and some of my events, I will tell you, some of my events have been paid and some of my events are free. So there's a difference in that. So I can tell you statistics on that kind of thing if you're wanting to know that kind of information as well. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing. And I'd love to, so I can dive into some of that, but I don't mind hearing what I know I enjoy at my events too, is if along the way you guys have questions, or there's something specific I'm talking about, or there's something on your mind that you're like, you would like to specifically know about, ask, because I find it's more, rather than me just talking, right? It's more interesting if you have specific questions, and guaranteed if you have that question, so does somebody else. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
and if you want, I can dive into what I have, what I've done, like I said, with stats and
Yeah.
with what I did, because I think that the biggest thing, and I'll kind of break out the events differently. So my Knowledge is Power is a free event. With free, I've determined that about 50-ish% of people that sign up show up. So that's kind of the way free events go. So there can be a range on what the topic is and things like that, but I would say that's about a range that I kind of count on. So, I mean, we had an event recently in September, and I had over 100 people sign up. But I know that I'm counting on about 50. And I think that one we were a little over 50. But last month we had a very low sign up. And then we ended up bringing extra tables and chairs after, and more people showed up after the fact. Some of that has to do with consistency. So depending on, I'm going to talk a little bit at my events that could apply to other events, like if you're trying to do events for clients or something like that, because I don't know that everybody here is trying to do the same kind of events on an industry, but I can tell you some of the benefits I've gotten out of it. So free events, that's kind of the expectation and showing up. But when I committed to these events, I really didn't know what it was going to go to. And some people say, Kim, I know you do events, so they think I've just had it figured out all along. Not true. So don't let fear hold you back from going for it. So when I first started this event, I had no idea. So the very first Knowledge is Power event that I did in November 3 years ago, that's what led to all of the other events coming up. So if I never did that first one, I wouldn't have had these other opportunities. I went all in. I figured it. I committed to doing it the third Thursday every month. So consistency has been important. So people know that my events are the third Thursday every month. So I think with that type of event where it's reoccurring, I think the time of year, I think like the time frame, that is important. And so that doesn't mean they're going to remember or put it on their calendar. So you still have to send out reminders, but people know, and then they space apart, right? So they know generally when my events are. So consistency is key on the time frame. And I would say that's the case even on paid events, like the rally's always in the spring, right? So people know, because if they're going to come to an event, then they have an idea of when that is. So now a lot of what I do is I do use a lot of social media to put it out there. And I also have a database of everybody that comes to my event. So one of the things I want to tell all of you, if you're in real estate, the number one, and this is what we just talked about, our last Knowledge is Power. The number one thing is you've got to have a database. When you have a closing, Nicole, you just said you had a closing, I think today, right? What happens when you have a closing with with those people's information?
Well, ideally, we put it in our database. And ideally, you put them in the database and add them to your, communications list. Make sure that they're invited to all your future events.
Yes, yes. And that is one of the key things. And I will tell you, I started now making the habit of I add them before. So in theory, when they become a lead or if they're a past client referral, I have them in my database. Now I have a database that I use, and I currently use Follow Plus. That is paid. If you're with EXP, you can use KB Core. That's already included. You don't have to pay for that. I don't care if you use an Excel spreadsheet, but you need to use something. So if you use a system to track it, I've made a habit in my phone. It's in my phone. I make sure I have their phone number, their email, and their address, all that information in there. So it makes it very easy if I want to mail a card, if I want to send them an email or a text message. So I make sure I have that information. So make sure you put that information in your database. I don't care where you store, but you've got to find a place where you do it. I would say about 90% of my business comes from past clients and referrals. And the reason that is because I stay in touch, because I do put them in the database. So when I have an event, when you say, how do you get consistent people showing up? I take all the people that have showed up that are in my database, and I'm going to hit them a few different ways. I do run my events through Eventbrite. And so I will notify them through Eventbrite. I notify them through Eventbrite because they register for other things with Eventbrite as well. So it's not going to go in their spam. We know it's going to hit their inbox. And I've had people come, maybe they come March, they didn't come April, but they come May. So I want you to keep in mind when you invite people, you have to continue to invite them, whether or not they show up, because you don't know what they have going on in their life. They could have prom, they could have a trip, they could have vacation, some of their family's sick, they could be, it could be something like that. So they don't show up this time, but they show up next time. So that database, I always follow up with them every single time. I always know what my next event is going to be. So when I send them an invite to an event, they can also see my other events coming up. So I'll get them registering, and when we have our event in person, when they're there, they know when my next event is, and so they know they go ahead, and I always 100% of the time get registrations for the next event. And the advantage to that is then it can go on their calendar, because if it's not on my calendar and I was there, but I forgot and I didn't put it on my calendar, I'm probably going to forget about it. Even if I had interest, even if I wanted to show up, right? So those are some of the tips with my knowledge is power. Know that it can evolve in what you want to do. We started out knowledge is power, but we evolved it to action brings success, because people go and gain a lot of knowledge, but the implementation is key. So I think that it's important for you have to define who your audience is and what you're trying to get out of it for them. You can't think about what's important to you. So let's say, because I want to apply this to clients as well. Because I think that probably will apply to a lot of people here. Like you guys run your event, which is fantastic. But also too, I'm thinking about the audience here and what you're going to take out of here, what tips you're going to take out of here. So if you're doing some kind of client event, why would the client take the time to show up to your event? What are they getting out of it? So the hook is very important. Why are they going to come? And then the description is important because that can provide more details. If they don't like the hook, they're never going to read your description and they're never going to be interested in your event. So it's important to have a good hook. When you are looking, and I think there's consistency in that too. So like there's an agent in my office, she does every Thanksgiving, she does pies. She does pies for her clients. She creates a postcard, and her clients know every Thanksgiving. So if you're going to try to do something like an annual event for your clients, then it's important to go with something. And if you want to do something like an annual event like that, kind of stick with it. I'm not saying you can't evolve or do something different, but when people have an expectation of when it's going to be, then they become to know it, and then they even expect it to come, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So you definitely want to define, what is my event? What am I trying to accomplish? And what is my audience? Then you have to speak to that audience. So like, and my knowledge is power. My audience they're real estate agents, right? They can be industry related, but we're trying to give them knowledge. And what do most agents want to know? They want to know how to grow their business. They want to learn some kind of skill that is going to help them reach a higher level, or some kind of skill that's going to make their life easier, or some kind of skill that will help them with, we've got next month, Austin Chevron's coming in, money mindset, keys to wealth. Last month we had some systems to help you kind of minimize effort. So that database, you can put your clients in a database to send out that saves you time, helps you make more money, because you can dedicate more time to doing what you want to do, or more time to enjoy your family because you're systematizing things. So those are things that agents want to know. For my Ditch the Hills event, well, that's a different event. I'm speaking to women entrepreneurs. We're talking about showing up authentically. We're talking about how you can build your business by building relationships with other business owners, right? So that's kind of, understand who your audience is, and you have to zone it down to who you're speaking to, and then think about what they want to do. And I personally like to brainstorm with other people because I know what I'm talking about, but that doesn't mean that's going to resonate with other people. So in talking and having discussions with other people, I do use ChatGPT. Give me 20 reasons, ideas on topics that might relate to real estate agents or women entrepreneurs. And then I let it, and when you ask ChatGPT for something, I vomit. I literally include every random thought in my head on what I'm trying to do because it will interpret that and then it will give me a list. Then I'm going to take that list and I'm going to decide, I'm going to tweak it to myself. But you have to know who your audience is. You have to know what is important to them. And I say all the time, you have to, sometimes on my knowledge is power, I have to show them what they want and then give them what they need. Because, meaning that they might need systems, but that's not going to be the reason they show up because that's not exciting. So that's where the hook and the description come in place. So even for a client, okay, hey, I appreciate you. I'm going to have a pie giveaway the week of Thanksgiving so you can have a pie to share with your family. It could be, I know some agents that do highly successful events with like a cider mill in the fall. Photos with Santa. Well, Nicole, you guys just did one for your clients, right? Out of
Yeah.
Lakes.
Yep, we did it at a orchard, like a cider mill place. Of course, the weather
Yeah.
was absolutely terrible that day. Out of all the days, it was like every day leading up to it was beautiful. That day was cold and gross, and then every day since has been beautiful.
Yeah.
So
And that
that's one of
sucks.
those things. Like you can't anticipate what's going to happen because we had to book that so far in advance. You can't, it's not like we could have just shifted the days or anything like that. So it ended up not having a great turnout, which is a total bummer because we were expecting quite a few people, and had it been a beautiful day, I think we would have had a massive turnout.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I'll say. So here's what I'll say to that. So use this as your mindset. So while the weather wasn't great, use the pictures and the event and the feeling of the event because all of your clients, even if they didn't make it, you invited them. That felt good. That was a reminder of who you are, why they want to do business with you. They love your energy. They love using you, right? When they buy and sell, or also it could lead to referral you don't realize. So it does suck when something like that happens, but looking at bigger picture, showing, because I saw on your social some of it and it looked great. So you show the great things about the event, the feeling, and then people that couldn't make it still know that they were invited to that and
Mhm.
go, okay, well, I'll look forward next year.
Yeah. And I mean, the people who came still had a great time. I think it was really good. But yeah, I mean, you still want to show all the photos, all the things, like get the hype up. Even, I mean, I've seen people, who's like, you only have like 3 or 4 people who show up, but you still make it look like it was a great, huge event
Yeah.
and everyone should come next year. And, you want that FOMO a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's important, especially when you're first starting out, because I will tell you, when I say I've been doing it for 3 years, right? We had a great sign up in January, excited about how many people we had, and then it snowed. Imagine that. It snowed in Michigan in January. Okay, so what? But that impacted people. I was getting text messages. I'm coming too far, the traffic, and then we didn't have as many people show up. It snowed that morning. And our event was inside. What are you going to do? You can't do anything. So you're right. You video from the right angles. You show that you had turnout. You had the turnout that you want. And because I'm consistently showing that, I'm also realizing because I had a group that had probably some of the same circle, literally start planning events at the place that I have events at, inviting a lot of the same people that come to my events on a different day. And I was like, really? Well, they did it for so long, they didn't get the turnout that I did, and then they gave up. They stopped doing it anyway. So there are months that I've had, maybe the subject didn't resonate like I thought it would. Maybe I didn't describe it the way that I thought was good, which is why I like to get different feedback. But I kept doing it anyway. And then that's where I get the consistent show up because even if this month wasn't great, then I evaluate, okay, why did it? Did we do something different? I have come up with a whole schedule of what we do in between events from when do we send invites? So it's not overwhelming. We send invites through Eventbrite. We send invites through email system. We'll send text messages. We'll do social, but we plan it out for the month so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Because before I did that, I'd randomly go, oh, I need to share this today. So I think that's important. But yes, your fall event. So is that the first fall event that you did for your clients?
So it's the first one I've done of this type. So for
Yeah.
the last several years, we've done photos. We've just done like family photos. So this year, you know, and this is a learning curve, right? So this is great for a lot of people who haven't done client events or not. So when I did the first one, we decided we were going to do photos. Julie Moratis and I shared, because at the time I didn't have a whole lot of clients yet, and she had a ton. So I was like, well, let's just do this together. We'll share the costs and all that. We ended up doing it in my boyfriend's backyard. He had beautiful pine trees. So we set up like 3 little stations. We did the Eventbrite. We did the signups. We did everything. Actually, I think we did it in, we set up time blocks. So I think we did it in, oh my gosh, I can't think. It's whatever the schools use to sign up for, like, you know,
Oh, I know what you're
I
talking
can't
about.
think of the name of the platform, but anyway, we used that one. They each signed up for 15-minute slots. Well, the photographer was done with them in like 5 minutes. And it was more of like a in and out. So the clients came in, they did their photos, they ran, they left. It was cold outside. Nobody really wanted to hang out. So they left. Signed up, genius. Yes, thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, you're
Exactly.
right. That's it.
So that, you know, we did that 2 years. And then last year, or the next year, I did, we did photos in downtown Northville, which was beautiful. And I actually set up shop in a little cafe, and I had people come in, check in with me. They got a little cookie, and then they were able to go outside, do the photos, and then come back in. But again, it wasn't, you're face to face, but you're not really hanging out. You know, they're just in and
Sure.
out. So this year, actually last year, I failed miserably. I booked my photographer, but I did not implement any sort of strategy or planning to make sure that I had everything ready. So I didn't have invitations. I didn't have anything. 1 week in my calendar prior to the event, I put in there, remind everyone about upcoming client event. And I was like, oh, shoot, I never sent them anything. So then at that point, it was like too late. So I
Yeah,
canceled it all together, and I actually had clients who were super bummed because for the last 2 years, they've had awesome family photos. So
yeah,
this year I was like, I'm not doing that again. I'm planning ahead. I'm making sure it's all done in advance, that we have everything ready. So I ended up wanting to do more of a event where people could come in, hang out. It was more of like a family thing. You know, we were going to have cider and donuts and all that stuff and little crafts. And I think again, like if the weather had worked out really well, it would have been a much bigger turnout. But the people loved the crafts that we did. They loved the stuff that we had.
yeah,
It went over really, really well. And it was nice because you actually got to sit down and talk with some of the people and chat and mingle. And it was fun. And we had the photographer still, so that was great. But, you know, I've learned over the years, you like what works, what doesn't work. You know,
yeah,
the first year we had those 15-minute time slots and we just sat around for way too long. So we ended up doing
yeah,
5-minute time slots, and that actually worked out much better because people weren't sitting around waiting, and the photographer wasn't sitting there waiting, wasting his time either. So it worked out
yeah,
really well, but it's things that you have to kind of live through and learn, or follow what we're saying and do what we're telling you to do this time, since we figured it out.
yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's the most important thing. Like creating this group is about sharing ideas on what worked and didn't work. So if you're like, you make a good point. So if you're gonna come for your photo shoot and it's quick, having something, even if you decided to do that, having something where there's a reason to stay after,
Yeah.
or and you know, of course there's cost to evaluate. A big event that a thing that I actually would like to do, and I have not implemented this, and I've heard people have great success, is if you, because think about it, for your cost and investment in your time, if you get one referral out of that, or one time where one transaction we're able to help your clients, does it pay for itself?
Oh, 100%. More time, like
Right.
probably 10 times over.
Right. So totally worth it. So what the goal is I always say it's not about what you do or say, but how you make a person feel. So when they have those family photos on their fireplace and they see them all the time, they think of you, right? And so even then, now, because people don't even always print, they use those photos over and over again. So even at the orchard, right, they would look at that. But one event that I'm intrigued to do, that it's kind of like I don't want to do it till I have the process, is that I've seen people that do events with, when I have a client, to do a housewarming party
Mhm.
where but here's where you get real intentional. And again, this is where the intention comes in, because I started, well, let me tell you this, and I want to come back to that thought. This is a conversation I had with Austin Chevron that I want to make a point of. For the housewarming event, they're like, okay, you tell your clients before you're closed, we're going to do a housewarming party 30 days after, because you're giving them time to get settled in. And then you handle all of their invitations, their invites, and you handle it for them. So this is where you take it a higher level. They're then giving you people you want to invite. You take care of the invitations, you invite people, you send it out. You now also have all of those people in your database, right? Then again, another higher level, you're sending out invitations of their friends. Then they show up to the housewarming party, and you have some cards on the table, but you have, I mean, because you can get like a Chipotle bar, right? Or you can get something like that, like fun and not crazy expensive. But you show up to the event and they're like, oh my God, my realtor is amazing. This house is good. I really want to move. I've been thinking about it, but I don't know how. I don't know if I qualify. That's where to open up conversations. But even a giveaway, say, hey, we're going to do a giveaway for anybody that shows up to the party. But also, this is where, again, when you say, Nicole, I've learned, a big thing that they said increase the turnout was to call and remind them. You know, Jeff and Susie, you know, their party's on Saturday. They're really looking forward to you joining them, and calling and reminding. A couple of things happen. One, you're increasing the turnout, which gets your clients more excited. You're also having another time where you're having a conversation with them. You're having a call, doing a text. So you're building a rapport. So then when they get there, they know that, yeah, I was the one that sent the invites. You know, if you ever have any questions about real estate, let me know. Isn't their house so beautiful? Don't make it about you, and don't do a sales pitch, right? Just about the home, the couples, and that. But those extra steps, like the invitations and the reminders and all of those, are important for turnout. So to go back to what you said, Nikki, on that, and the conversation I had with Austin Chevron, was anything you're going to do it with excellence. And if you're not doing with excellence, then cut it out. If you're trying to do too many things and you're not able to do it at a high level, then don't do it. I was getting to a point where I was doing events, right? And I have been doing them for a long time. So I was getting more on like, you know, kind of an automatic thing instead of being intentional, because there were times that I was calling and reaching out, inviting people. Hey, I haven't talked to you. It was a great reason for me to call and reach out and go, I haven't seen you in a couple months. This is coming up this Thursday. You know, can you make it? Love to see you again. That was one of the things that, one, had my turnout better, two, helped me build rapport and accomplish what my goal was anyway, that I stopped doing because I was just taking it kind of for granted. So if you're going to do it, make sure you do it with excellence and you do it with intention. What is your intention? Know who your audience is, know who you're trying to invite, and then make sure that you're just doing the things to make the event a success. So you do have to slow down. I find I'm a task person. I like to get my tasks done. But what I've discovered through coaches is that by being focused on getting my tasks done, I would have a bad habit of living in my email. And I can knock out those emails, and I like to have none, and I've handled everything, and it makes me feel good. But a coach asked me, what do you have to give up in order to reach the next level you want to reach? I kind of didn't know what he meant at first. And I kind of had to think about it a good 4 or 5 days. I ended up figuring out because I like knocking out tasks. It makes me feel good to do that, but I'm focused on the task that people are coming in my email, what other people need, not what I need. So where I'm spending my time for the day is not on the things that will help me grow my business, but busy work. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to do an event, it is important for me to lay out the plan. And I've now put it in a spreadsheet and I've got it mapped out. If I'm going to do it, here's where I need to start doing it. And when I divide out the task over the calendar month, it actually, even though it feels daunting to stop and slow down and figure it out, it's actually more freeing if I know that I just need to do one thing this week and one thing here and one thing here. And over the course of things, it might only need to be 14 things I need to do. And if I space it out and I know what day and I look and I go, this is done, that's going to get me the result that I want for the event, then it's worth it. Then I have success, then I feel good, then that keeps me wanting to keep doing it. So I think that's one of the things that's really important. And here's the other thing. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses. And so one of the things I think when you talked about, Nicole, when you said that we hired a company to help us with our holes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So mine and your holes aren't necessarily the same, but we have to recognize what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And if I recognize what I'm good at, so if you're not good at sending the invitations, the reminders, and you're going to forget that, like if you're trying to make yourself do something you're not good at, it's hard and we're not setting ourselves up for success. But if we find a way, and I like your idea of you and Julie doing it, if you have like Dawn, I see Dawn Townsend on here, she does photography for crying out loud. She could absolutely take her clients and go, hey, let's do an annual event. She could find a place that she might be able to have for her clients to come. And even for the cost, it could be a lender, it could be a title company, it could be another real estate agent, because if you're inviting them, they know whose agent it is, right? And having them come and join you for an event, that way you're able to make the event happen and maybe split some of the costs. That's a really smart idea, Nicole, that you said doing that.
Yeah, it's always helped. I mean, it's a lot easier when you have somebody else to help, right? So you're not keeping the costs all on you, and then you have a bigger turnout, you can do more things, you have more hands on deck. Because like I was just thinking though, like even Dawn, she did say that she's done several client events. The other thing is, she wants to also be able to hang out with her clients and, do the thing. So if she's behind a camera, she can't necessarily do that. So it's so helpful to have, be able to, like, as Marissa said, you just want to kiss the babies. You want to hang out. You want everyone else
Yes.
to do their thing so you can focus on your clients. And I think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's definitely different when I am hosting an event than when I attend somebody else's event.
Yeah.
So when I'm hosting, I've got to be on, I've got to take care of the things. So no, I think that's important. And it's also good to have somebody else that is that bounce ideas off, right? And that brings in a different perspective. So I think that is up, and it helps keep you maybe accountable, right? I need to send out my invitations. And so you sit down and plan with somebody that you write out what you're going to do. I need to invite at least this many people. You need to invite at least this many. And then you check in with that. So having somebody that you do it with can definitely help. I will say and I am planning, and here's the thing, as it kind of evolves, I have learned, if anybody ever has any questions, I'm happy to share, because when you share what's worked and what's not worked, this is what's worked with paid events. This has helped with free events. I have an event that I'm coming up and I had to go all in on this. And this is a little bit terrifying, but we are planning a Ditch the Hills retreat. And this is a completely different event than I've done before. But in talking to speakers that come with it, some of them have done retreats, and I've listened and asked questions. And they shared with me tips on what's worked, what's not worked, make sure you keep this into account. So for that event, even though I have done events and I've had successful events, I get people to show up. This is a very different one because we're going to Tulum, Mexico,
Oh,
and
wow.
staying in a 20,000 square foot house that's got 6 pools, 5-minute walk to the beach. It is absolutely a crazy house. But my passion behind that, and here's the thing, and I was terrified. So it doesn't matter what the budget is, right? Because I remember when I did my first Ditch the Hills event, I was terrified to sign that contract with the San Marino Club because I didn't know who was going to show up. I didn't know if I was going to sell out. I didn't know if nobody was going to show, if there would be no interest. And I did sell out. And if I never did it because I was worried about that, it would have never happened. So this event in Tulum is going to be in a house where we're bringing in speakers. I've got speakers that have a speaker fee of $15,000 that have agreed to waive their speaker fee to come and speak at this event because I talked to them about what the event is going to be, about what I'm trying to do, about women entrepreneurship. So one of the things I will say is never be afraid to ask. On all the events I've hosted, I have rarely had, there have been calls I've made that I was terrified to make to ask for somebody to come, but rarely has there been somebody say no. So, which I know is a different kind of event than a client event, but never be afraid on who you ask. So this person was referred to me. She's like, I do a $15,000 speaker fee. We didn't get into all of that, but when I went through and said, here's what we're doing, here's what our messaging is, here's what we're going to give you. You get to come, you get to stay. These are the things that we're doing. And now she's going, you know what? Okay, I'm in. And even some of the, for Ditch the Hills speakers that I've had, Elizabeth Riley came in, Chanel, Kendall Bonner. Those are all incredible speakers that came in that, Kendall's been a keynote speaker on the stage in New York. And not only did I not have the budget I didn't have the budget to cover their speaker fee or their travel and expenses. They actually paid for their fare, the hotel and all of that to come and speak at my event, which to me was phenomenal. So again, don't be afraid to ask and don't wait till you have it figured out. I committed to the event not knowing who my speakers were going to be, right? And I just knew that I had to go all in. And if I really truly wanted to create this, I needed to just go for it. And then I've been able to make it happen. And it is a little terrifying, and it's no less terrifying just because I've had previous events have success. When it's a new one, it's still terrifying.
Right. Well, it's a much bigger event. It's including travel. It's, more expense. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I was worried, okay, we're going to Mexico, or some people going to be like, I don't want to go to Mexico. But the reason we were doing that is when you're looking at venues in the United States in first week of February, it's cold everywhere. There's nowhere you can enjoy outside. Here, we're going to do yoga on the rooftop overlooking the jungle. So, and just the amenities that we could get, it just really made it a different experience. So again, we had to go through houses, and some houses, there was one house we looked at and they said, this is where you got to learn to pivot. I talked to the house, they gave us a price, and then we were having dialogue with them. They came back and said, oh, that one's booked. How about this week? Okay, we talked to them. They still weren't very clear in the details. And I wasn't ready to commit without knowing more of those details that were going to be expenses. That one got booked. So they go, well, you can have this week. It was $10,000 additional, not total, like above what the other weeks were. And I said, we're out. And excuse me, we kept looking and we found a different house that worked, a different venue. So understand that, even like with my Ditch the Hills event locally, we've had it at the same place. I'm looking at different fun events that have different atmospheres that I like probably a little better, but there's a cost perspective. And if I
Yeah.
can't make it happen in the budget, then I've got to go, okay, again, what's my goal? What am I trying to do? And sometimes you have to make pivots on that.
Yeah, I think you just have to figure out, like you said, what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, a retreat is a completely different thing than just an event.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's taking the next step, it's going to the next level. It's, creating I'm sure a lot more deeper connections with the community. So
Yes.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so in your experience, like getting people to come to these events, like let's just say one of your local events.
Yeah.
What are so you're hitting them on social media, you're hitting them through Eventbrite, and Eventbrite is great because you have all of the opportunity to be able to have it remind them automatically.
Yes.
I will say one thing we learned the hard way this last event, another tip for you. If you're doing a private event, make sure you make your event private. Julie accidentally had hers as public, and people were buying tickets to our client event for free because it was for our clients and coming to our
Oh.
event. So it got a little bit messy there for a minute. I mean, it was fine. Like, we are handling it, but it was funny because we had people show up and we're like, is that your client? No. How did you get tickets to this? And they're like, oh, we saw it on Eventbrite. And we're like, oh no. But
Oh,
so there's ways to, obviously not have that happen, but are you then obviously personally calling people and making sure that, hey, like I like that you said like, hey, I'm, excited to see you. I can't wait to make sure you do all that because I didn't do that and I probably should have.
yeah. And and all transparency, I've been better at it sometimes than others.
Mhm.
So I'm not perfect, even though I know what I need to do, right? I'm trying to improve my actions in doing that. But yeah, so there's been times I will send an email through Eventbrite. And before I used a different email system, but I'm currently using MailChimp. So I send it through MailChimp. MailChimp allows me to send it by email and by text. So there's a text reminder, right? So I kind of space it out. What was the one, Holly, that they did last week that was cheaper?
Flowdesk?
Yeah, Flowdesk.
Flowdesk. Okay. So Flowdesk might want to look at, might be cheaper. I have a very large database, so I use MailChimp, but Flowdesk might be cheaper. But I can send text messages. There is a cost to text messages though, right? I do. So I do text, email. I do phone calls. And I'll even record a video. So I've done this. I've recorded a video of myself and I say it in a way, hey, so good to see you. I don't put a name in my video, and I will send a video text message to somebody just directly and say, I want to send you a personal invite. We've got our knowledge is power. Here's what our subject is. I know you've been before, would love to see you again. So I do a video and I send that video. And then in the message, and I'll send the video and I'll be like, hi, Stacy. Just wanted to send you a personal invite. Thought of you, would love to see you there. And then I send the link to the event. So that way I'm sending a video, because if you receive a video from somebody you know, are you not going to watch it? Yeah, you're
That
going to
makes
watch
sense.
it.
Yeah, you're gonna watch it.
Yeah. So I will be intentional. I do kind of have a list for, again, depending on what my goal is on the event. If there's certain people I know that I want to hit, and I pull out and make that list so that if I'm sitting down and I'm sending that text message like that, I can copy paste. Shh, don't tell anybody. And I can send it out to 10 people fairly quick. The
Mhm.
other thing that I will do is I do like to connect with my clients and even other agents on social media. I'll send a Facebook Messenger. So you can I do create an event on my business page and my personal Facebook page. And then I will create an event and allows you to invite people. And it starts to create groups for you, right? People that have attended your last event. So I can create an event, click, and invite 500 people at a time, you can come back and do that again. But that's also going to give them a notification on Facebook. So I'm touching them. Some people are email people, some people are not. There's some people I know that like, they don't keep up with their email because it's overwhelming. So if I'm only doing it by email, I'm not going to reach them. So I'm doing it in a number of different ways: email, text message, a video text message to their phone, might be Facebook Messenger or even Instagram Messenger, right? So you can create that same kind of thing. I wanted to personally invite you, makes them feel good. And I'm taking the time and I am personally inviting them because, well, I'm sending them a message, right? And then you can send it out, and you can also save groups within Facebook and Instagram too. So next time, if you want to do that, you can do that as well. And you got to remind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. So hopefully, I don't know if that's sorry, little cough. I don't know if that helps or gives you some additional things that maybe you didn't do that hopefully but it's a plan in order to do it in a way where you're intentional. If I'm going to do an event, I'd rather you see you do one event a year than 5, but then not do them intentionally and invite people and get people to show up.
Right. Yeah. Well, does anybody have any questions, or does anybody have any upcoming events that you want some advice on before we wrap things up today? Nobody? Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. All right. Well, we will wrap things up then today. Kim, thank you so much. Since you're on and you have some of your events that you've talked about, do you want to really quickly, one, tell us how we can find you on socials, and 2, if you have a link to your Ditch the Heels event, or want to talk a little bit about that before we head off, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll put my here's the website for Ditch the Hills in the group. And then Facebook, you can just find me by my name. But if you go sorry, if you go to ditchthehills.org, that's going to be the website for our community and our event. If you find me on Facebook, Kim Agemy, you can find me very easy. We do have a group called Ditch the Hills. This is only for women. If you know somebody that should be part of the community, so we have a Facebook community where we're looking to connect women entrepreneurs. This is free. You can come in, you can join us. I know that you joined us. If you want to invite other amazing women, if we can all refer business and be intentional about helping each other grow, I love that. If you have interest in the community, there's a link in the Facebook group once you're in, or go to ditchthehills.org. If you're interested in the retreat, we have essentially 15 spots. That's it. And we had a couple booked, so we have to check what's available. But that is on the ditchthehills.org. Check out the house in Mexico and Tulum. See what you think about it. It all pretty much, we're adding speakers. So I got a couple more speakers to add that we're working on that today that have committed, but I've got to get it uploaded. And then on Instagram, it's just Agemy. So my Instagram, you'll also see a lot of Ditch the Hills. On all my profiles, you're going to see the link for Ditch the Hills. And then my Knowledge is Power is the third Thursday every month. And we're going to have Austin Chevron share keys to wealth. So he's going to be in person. He's traveling from Indiana. So if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see the links to that as well. They're all always on Eventbrite. So if you go to Eventbrite and look up Kim Agemy, you'll be able to see all of our events. You can follow me so you know events coming up as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. And if anyone, just make sure you connect with her. And then if you're interested or have any other questions about anything, feel free to reach out to her on Instagram. If you can't find her, reach out to us and we will get you connected. As always, thank you, Kim. We really appreciate you being on here. The video, we will have this on our YouTube channel and we'll post it in the Modern Agent Blueprint Facebook group as well. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank
Kim.
you. Appreciate you having me.
Bye, everyone.